Welcome to Albuquerque Real Estate Talk, episode 501, mid-August 2024. Big change in real estate in mid-August 2024. We'll get into that, as well as I've got an alert for home sellers on some ways that people are purchasing homes. I want them to be really cautious of. We'll get into that. Tracy, you've got a story about fur babies and homes. We've got the stat of the week. We've got builder highlights, and we are the Venturi Realty Group of Real Broker here in Albuquerque. Again, episode 501. Been doing this for, gosh, I guess 11 years now. We have a team of real estate brokers here in Albuquerque have helped over 4,000 home buyers, home sellers, land buyers, land sellers over the years, and love bringing this show every week talking about what's going on in the market.
Yeah, we're here. Tigo, you talking about the team. We have a great team of people who specialize in helping, whether it's a buyer, a seller. Sometimes we help with help people find connections for rentals, but it's not what we do. We don't property manage, but we also work with investors. We work with a lot of land. We can help people put together land and manufactured home packages. New Mexico has a lot of manufactured homes throughout the state. So a lot of different things that we can do. And if we don't know it or do it, we can definitely get you connected to the right people or places. So, Tia, where are we starting?
You said something that made me think I want to start on this story about home seller alert. Because in New Mexico, you said we do a lot of manufactured homes. The other thing we do in New Mexico, which is unusual around the country, is a lot of seller financing, where the seller, the property owner, is actually carrying the mortgage back, or what we do is a real estate contract.
Owner financing.
Yeah, it's owner financing, but it's drafted as a real estate contract. So this is a deal between the buyer and the seller, where the seller becomes the lender, and the ownership of the property transfers to it is a sale. And I don't want to go into all the details about multiple deeds and escrow company and all this stuff, but there's something out there that's got me concerned that sellers might get themselves in trouble if they don't quite understand what they're signing up for.
So, something in the way that the property is conveyed, or?
Correct. There is a term called subject to, and it looks and smells like a real estate contract, as in somebody takes over really what they're doing is they're taking over ownership of the property, and they take on any existing mortgage that's in place. The challenge that a seller might have is they do that, they have no recourse if that buyer defaults. They're turning over ownership to this person with absolutely no recourse to take back the property if they default. And it's called a subject to, and it's very common around the country in the real estate investing world, where here and part of that is because New Mexico has really actually has a lot of seller financing, very common. In other states, not so much. So the good thing about a real estate contract is, if you sell on a real estate contract, and even if you have an existing mortgage and what they call wrap around the existing mortgage, talk to your attorney on that one. There's some pitfalls there, but at least you have leverage in case the buyer defaults,
Where
or
you can
the new owner.
take the
Yeah,
property back.
exactly.
And
Where with a subject to, you may not have that. So I talked to a broker, and they were trying to find an attorney that would help somebody do a subject to. Or actually, what happened was they called this broker and said, "Hey, I've called every attorney I can find to help me write up a subject to sale," and was turned down by every attorney in the city. So it gives you an idea of what it is not a great way to sell a property.
I'm pretty sure they didn't call every attorney in the city, but they called a few real estate attorneys, right? Okay. So,
That was called hyperbole. So
yeah,
yes, I'm
okay.
sorry. Yes,
Yeah.
you're right. It's not
So,
every. Yeah.
let's talk about something light and fluffy. And, we get so heavy with stats and things to be aware of, right? Let's talk about shopping for homes for your fur babies and with your fur babies in mind, right? Great story this week. And I know from showing houses over the years how important home searches can be when you're taking into account your family makeup, right? Whether it's children or cats or dogs or goats or chickens or horses or whatever, it's important. And people coming from out of the area, Tigo, will say, I need a fenced yard. And they don't realize that a lot of our properties come with a block wall or fenced yard, right? But the story said that the influence of pets on housing decisions is huge, and that 66% of households have pets.
Two
And
thirds.
two
Yeah.
thirds and 147 billion is spent on pets in 2023.
Wait, how much?
147 billion. And we know that we do our fair share with
Yeah, we
our
do.
two dogs, only two. 19% of homebuyers factor in pets to neighborhood choices. Of course, we've got a lot of great dog parks around the city. And so you can be looking for something where you can walk to a dog park. I know a lot of our friends that drive to dog parks. We actually are lucky because we back to one of the irrigation ditches or the canals throughout the valley. And we can go right out our gate and walk on ditches with our dogs. So we don't have to take them to a dog park. But interesting because when we're working with clients, there have been some over the years, Tigo, where the pet that they have or pets have taken top priority on their home search. Really serious pet
In
owners
choosing making the
in
decision on a
making
home, it was
absolutely.
about the pet. Yeah.
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 I've seen like where a floor had tile or a more slippery surface, and they were like, no, my dog won't like that. I get it. I
Yeah,
have
no, we
we have
love
pampered pets,
we love our
so
fur babies, and I saw a stat that there are more pets than there are children in
right,
houses.
exactly, that's true too.
Yeah,
You think about cats, dogs, chickens, I don't know if they're pets though,
and there's a whole I don't
household
go
pets.
too far down this, but there is a current stat out there that the kind of younger generations, not millennials so much, but maybe the millennials and the Gen Z are not having babies as much as our generation for sure, and even the Gen X's. But less human babies and more fur babies.
Yeah, I think in general, human babies cost a lot more, and you can't just leave them for a few hours while you go to the store or something, so it people are a bigger commitment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. Um,
Speaking of pets, we've had somebody parked in our parking lot all day trying to sell their puppies.
yeah, I know.
Kind of ironic.
Our office is on Alameda, so we get thousands and thousands of cars across here at
Yeah.
Alameda and the Rio Grande.
We saw somebody pull in a little while ago and leave with a puppy, so I think
Oh,
it's been successful.
she's
Tigo, we
yeah.
have August was the big change for the real estate rules as far as realtors and what is required. And the buzzword about the whole change, and our listeners probably understand it better than most right now, but the big buzzword is things are negotiable.
Yeah,
And
it is. It and that has been the big buzzword, and it's sure creating a lot of confusion.
it really is. We've had a couple of calls this week from people saying, okay, are your commissions negotiable? Let's sit down and talk about it and talk about what your bottom line is, what your goal is, and how it fits in. And it's the what the lawsuit was about was across the board, they felt like realtors were all charging the same. The word negotiable is saying what I charge versus what somebody down the road with a real estate sign out can be different. And it always has been different. And what we charge is what we charge, right?
Yeah, what I think one of the misconceptions, and I think this is probably where this comes from, is that the board of realtors or some organization, some group is all deciding on what everybody charges. And that's really the crux of that. It's not set. It's not set by anything or any rule or any law or anything.
There's no United States rule that says realtors will charge this much commission,
Correct.
which there never has been, but apparently
Well,
the
if you go back to the 1930s, there was, is my
okay.
understanding. Yeah.
Yeah. But since then, what we charge has been what we charge, and what the other realtors around the country charge is what they charge. But they're trying to make it more clear to the public that there isn't a standard fixed rate across
Correct.
the country
Correct.
versus negotiable.
And
That
and
the
that's a
word's
better way to say
misleading.
it. There's no fixed rate, and instead of saying it's negotiable, because
No
each
fixed rates from realtor to
yeah,
realtor.
yeah, each practitioner, each realtor, real estate professional in New Mexico, there's about 12,000 licensees, as they say. And so a licensee is somebody that has a real estate license in New Mexico. Only about half of those are realtors.
Right.
And in New
And
Mexico, or I'm sorry, in the Albuquerque area, it's probably almost 95% are realtors,
And
but in the rural areas, not so much.
to be a realtor, what that means is we have to join the National Association of Realtors and agree to their code of ethics and their rules.
Yeah, so it's a higher level of requirements that we agreed to do, code of ethics,
Right.
which is over and above what the real estate license law says.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the only other thing I really want to cover about this, Tigo, because we've really covered that part, is that to show a house now, I can't just take a call. You guys on listening can't just call me and say, "Hey, I want to go see this house down the street. I've been looking in this neighborhood." I say, "Great, I'm happy to do it." And we have to have a written agreement to work together before I can show you the house. Just like to represent a home seller, I have to have a written agreement. I have to have a written agreement with the buyer now. And the written agreement has to say that we're going to work together and how much I charge to represent you to be a home buyer.
I want to say something about that. I've been, as Tracy, because I haven't been around lately, because
Yep,
I've been out teaching this,
you've been
that
teaching this for
all
quite a
these
while.
practice changes to other real estate professionals because of my involvement with the multiple listing service here. And it's a big change for how we've done business for a very long time. And one of the things that I think keeps getting lost is people are saying that you're going to enter into a buyer agency agreement or a buyer broker agreement. First off, agency, we're not going to go down that rabbit hole, but
Agent means I can speak for you or sign for
yeah,
you, whatever. We don't do that.
yeah, in New Mexico, agency is generally not practiced. Most
Some do.
realtors represent their clients as a transaction broker. So there's broker duties, and again, we're not going to get into that too much, but it's not an agency agreement. It is the only requirement in the rule for the written agreement is that the buyer and the buyer broker come to terms on what the fees are.
Right.
It doesn't get into who's going to pay it, how it's going to be paid. It's just saying this is my fee to help you buy a home. You have to have that written agreement before starting to help somebody look at homes or basically tour homes. And I say you have to, meaning like the real estate professional, the realtor, that's a requirement of the realtor. So if you're a home buyer and a realtor doesn't ask you that before they show you a home, that's a red flag that either they're not following the rule or don't understand the rule. And I know sellers or buyers might be pushing back against this, but the idea is transparency, right? And it's transparency on what the fee is going to be. And really, that's it. There's a couple disclosures that have to be made too about the fees, but really, it's you set the fee and that's it. And you can then start touring homes. And that's it. And there's a whole other conversation regarding sellers. I don't know if we want to get in the weeds on that, but the way sellers can offer compensation to a buyer broker has changed. They can still do that, but just the way they share it within the MLS has gone away. And again, that's a conversation the seller and the listing broker need to have and decide what is going to be the best marketing strategy to incentivize either a buyer or a buyer broker for to get the home sold. So
Right.
again, these are really deep conversations that are going to have to be had that maybe weren't being had in the past. And so I think it's really a good thing in the end for consumers. It's just a little more complicated now.
Right. And I really appreciate all the training you have done because you got yourself up to speed, you learned it, and then you became the expert. And we've had you advocating for our whole realtor community, but right here in our office, teaching us first.
Yeah.
And I think
Our poor team is so up to speed on this and
our lucky team is so up to speed on it that they're going to be great representatives
And I
of.
think the other piece of this, not even it's the actual business practices, and there's new forms that we use in the different ways, and all of those things are really important that the realtor understands those processes so that they can best represent their buyer and seller. And obviously, we've been spending a lot of time going through that, so everybody knows what to do and take care of their clients.
We're going to talk about something else.
Okay,
Okay. So, Tigo, I'm sure you've heard of the builder Mossman. Mossman Homes.
yeah,
So I wanted to feature Mossman Homes this week, last week, and
it's
the
like a
week
blast
before.
from the past.
Yeah, but it's still here.
Yeah.
So I thought it was interesting. I did some research on Mossman Homes, and Mossman was a builder in our market, various neighborhoods, Bear Canyon, just north of Academy, near the Whole Foods at Academy, and Wyoming, just west of it. That's one of the neighborhoods where you'll find a lot of Mossman built homes. The rest of them are very much uptown in general. So one of the neighborhoods is called Stardust Skies. I thought, what a beautiful neighborhood name, right? Stardust Skies.
Reminds me of Snow Heights.
It brings to mind that kind of mid-mod logo you see of that Stardust kind of
Oh, yeah,
thing,
for sure. Yeah.
but in any event, that's the tie-in here is a lot of the homes that were built by Mossman do have that mid-century modern vibe to them, and a lot of people have really embraced that and look for a Mossman, and people will say, "Hey, is that a Mossman?" and be excited if we are working with a Mossman, or if we're looking for with home buyers sometimes in those neighborhoods, they want to know, is this a Mossman? Because it's name recognition. So I did a little bit of research, Tigo. Let's go through it. So
So when
right
I think
now,
of a Mossman, I think of a quality home, maybe
Great Bones.
70s era, maybe
I didn't
Steez.
look at that, but I
But
can tell
and
you
then I
real
also
quick.
think of, like, hardwood floors.
I absolutely 72 of the homes that came up still have some hardwood
Okay,
floors.
okay. Yeah, and,
I was going to go through the stats, but you jumped ahead. Go for it. Yeah,
well, no,
hardwood
I'm
floors
I'm
comes to
just off the
mind
top
for
of my head. I
sure.
mean, when you say Mossman, and anybody that's been around Albuquerque for a while understands that, and I'm just thinking, okay, what are they're generally ranch house, single story, they're wood floors, high quality. I think open floor plans for the era.
Or people have opened them up.
Okay,
But I just searched, like, I've just clicked on 6 of them in a row here, and it goes from 1950 to 1980 so far. So, a lot of years of Mossman
okay.
building houses. As we moved from downtown towards the northeast, it moved, you can see from street to street, they get newer as you get further northeast.
I'm
So,
sure there's some real estate brokers out there that are like going, but there's this and there's this and there's this that have been around for even longer than us that know that whole Mossman story. But yeah,
yeah.
they're a higher desirable property in Albuquerque for sure.
So I know we've listed a home before and we said, is this a Mossman or isn't it? Can we label it and say this is a Mossman home? And in the end, we couldn't find anything to clearly tell us, or we couldn't find a building permit or something in the records to say this was built by Mossman. And all of the buyers who would tour it would say, is this a Mossman? And we'd go, we think so, but we can't say for sure. Right.
What do they call that? Provenance.
I
You
don't
need the
know.
provenance of the property.
Big words. So of in our multiple listing service, Tigo, the whole multiple listing service, in the past year, there were 111 that said they were Mossman homes.
Okay.
We know, like I just said, a lot of them aren't being labeled that way, right? Because we have a field that's optional where you can put the builder name in. And I'm sure that all the other homes in these same neighborhoods, most of them are probably Mossman,
So how
right?
many did you say? What was the number?
111.
111 of about 10,000. So maybe, yeah, 1%.
And 8 of them are currently on the market right now where they've labeled them as Mossman the Builder. There might be some others on the market, but the builder name hasn't been filled in because they either don't know or didn't check,
Yeah.
one of the two.
Yeah.
So right now they average in price from 315. There's 2 townhomes right next to each other, basically on La Ronda, 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 2 car garage. Actually, one of them's a 2 bedroom, two bath, 2 car garage, and they both are at 315 price, and they both look beautiful and no HOA as I recall. And then they go up right now on the market, one 650,000. So big spread in
Hmm.
Mossman homes. We have 8 in pending sale. Average list price was 428,000. Right now the average list price of the one still on the market is 476,000. We have that 650 in there bringing it up. But
Yeah.
I just thought it was interesting that most of them appear to be in like Sandia High School district and classic uptown area. The price range of all the closed properties for the past year, there was one that was only like 1,150 square feet that closed at 259,000. And it sounds like that would make it a fixer upper. But when I looked at the pictures, it was pretty
Wow.
cute. It
Hmm.
was well maintained. wasn't exactly perfect, but it was a nice house, but it's small. The highest price of a Mossman sold last year was 698,000. So anyway, price or the square footage varies from 1,000 square feet to almost 2,800 square feet. And when you think of Mossman, you don't think of two-story.
No, I
No,
don't. I don't.
very much a single-story ranch house.
Yeah.
There were some two stories that sold, but my guess is somebody added on the upper level. I just don't think of them as two stories. Anyway, the price per square foot also ranged huge, 150 a square foot to 260 a square foot sold. The 150 and the few that were low were definite fixer uppers. And it's interesting that you would say wood floors because I wanted to say wood floors are a prominent feature. And I would guess 72 of the 111 said they have wood floors, some portion of the house. But I would guess there's some wood floors still under some of that carpet or tile or whatever's in the house. But
Yeah, for sure. And
that's
that's always one of those things you get in one of those older houses, those era of homes. You go, "Ooh, let's pull up the corner
yeah.
of the carpet and see if there's what's under there."
Been
Yeah,
there, done that. So
yeah,
that's
yeah,
my Mossman story. I really love that mid-mod vibe when it's
yeah,
there. It's not in all of them, but I just love that we can embrace that and that those homes have withstood the test of time, and we still think of them as having great bones and good floor plans and just really nice part of town.
yeah. No, it's interesting. It's interesting. I've talked to Mike Feets at Westway Homes or McKinsey at Brazo Homes, or both local home builders, and they both, have a very distinctive style that they do, and they're very proud of. They want in the future, just like we're talking about Mossman 40 years later, they want to be known as, hey, that's a Westway or that's an Abrazo. It's a very distinctive style. So I think that's interesting.
I don't know if you know this, but the 1950 was one of the years that I saw the house was built. That's 70 years ago.
Yeah, I know. As I
It's
said 40 years ago,
a
okay,
long time.
that's yeah. All right, stat of the week. I've got a stat for us. I
Okay.
haven't run this by you yet, but I found one thing that was really interesting I wanted to share. This week was the New Mexico Association of Realtors statewide conference. It
Oh,
was
you
right
were one of the
I was
panelists.
one of the
You have
panelists.
been a busy guy.
It's been a busy week. But we had a lot of great presenters. I was just one of many. We actually had Kevin Sears, who's the National Association of Realtors president here in town for a couple days visiting with us. We also had Jessica Lutz, or Dr. Jessica Lutz, PhD, who is let's see, deputy chief economist for the National Association of Realtors, NAR.
Up your alley.
Right up my alley. Yeah, no, as soon as I saw her in the room and we were having our breakfast, I went down and sat right by her and said, "Oh, you're my people," because I follow her on all her content that she puts out about the housing market. But one thing she did say was that nationally, cash sales are about 25% of all the home sales. And I'm like, "Okay, no, that's not Albuquerque." Yeah, I know that because I've been tracking it now since 2018. And so I wanted to cover is how are homes sold? So in 2024, so far, cash sales account to 14.5% of all the sales that have closed in our
So
multiple
your
listing service.
intuition was definitely right.
Yeah, it's only about 15%, less than 15%. The highest we ever saw in cash sales was in 2022. Not really a surprise. That was 2022 was the year where the first half of the year was insanity, and then mortgage rates shot up so much, and then the second half of the year was higher mortgage rates. That's the year we had that huge move in mortgage rates. I think part of it was the busyness, people just paying cash to get the home, and I think the second half of the year in 22 was people paying cash because they didn't wanna they didn't wanna get a 7.5% mortgage, some of that. Anyway, but even then, it was 17, almost 18%, just shy of 18% in cash sales. Cash sales are still not a huge piece.
We're not national.
No, and the dominant is conventional loans. No surprise, 60% of the sales are conventional loans. About 14% are FHA, which is a first-time home buyer 3.5 down payment program. VA loans about 8%, and that's it, which is too bad, but that's actually higher than it was during the pandemic. It was only about 7%. So more VAs, which is great because they're a great program. And obviously, they are the best loan program out there. We say that all the time. And seller finance, which we talked about near the top of the show, is about just over 1%, still very
Very
small.
few.
But
We
this is
we
go ahead.
we like personally seller
Oh, yeah,
financing because we call it mailbox money, right?
absolutely.
If you have a property and you don't need the cash out of it and you can sell it and be the person who finances it, you can get a higher rate of interest.
Yeah, you think
That
about it this way, you've got a property and you sell it, you get the cash and you put it in the bank or you put it in a CD, you're okay, you're getting maybe some a little bit return or maybe you invested in the market. But on a real estate contract, you're getting a really high return on that money. Eh,
usually at least 2% or more above what someone could get from a bank.
yeah, every obviously everything's negotiable, but yeah, you're probably talking 8-10% annualized on your sale price. The other big advantage of I don't know how we got off this, but we're gonna go down a big advantage for, especially investor that's selling a property, and let's say they have this huge gain over the last whatever years they've owned the property. If they sell that property, they might have a tax consequence for that entire capital gain on that property or that gain on that property. On a real estate contract, you're selling it in an installment type deal. So you may be able to spread that tax consequence out. Again, talk to your tax professional,
Right.
all that.
Right.
But it is a thing. Okay, the one thing I wanted to tell you though, no, I didn't get there yet. Hold on. Hold that thought. We are still talking about how sold, how homes are sold. Okay, assumption is a type of financing where a buyer assumes the property. Get this, it's up more than double than last year, and the year in almost double in 2023, and we're not even through the year yet, or more than double last year. And
Because
then,
there's been what, 4?
darn it,
How many?
she got me. There was 3 last year,
Okay.
and there's 7 this year so far.
Yeah. And we know
That's how those news people, they write the headline saying I remember that when the
yeah,
foreclosure, like,
over double.
"Foreclosures have doubled in the last year." It went from,
0.
1 to 2 or
Yeah,
whatever.
because there
Yeah,
was a moratorium.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
anyway, but it's interesting because assumptions, we've talked about it before. There may be some opportunities for assumptions now where a homeowner's got a 3% mortgage. Somebody may be able to come in and assume that mortgage and pick up that great rate that's still in
it's
place.
complex though,
It
because
very
the
complex.
equity still has to be dealt
Correct.
with. So going back to what you said, VA. So just want to tell all of our listeners that a lot of people end up with going to a lender for VA that they think is like the government.
Oh, right.
Just want to make sure everybody knows we have great local lenders that do VA loans. Almost every lender does a VA loan. And a lot of them are cheaper than some of those online sites because they want to give back to our local community and those veterans that have served. So they try charge little less on like origination fee and underwriting fee and things like that as a give back to the veterans. So if you're thinking that you're a veteran and you want to use that loan, don't get online and get on some national VA lending.
I think the way to say it is there is no national entity that is the VA loan program. They're all independent
They're
loan
lenders.
brokers or banks,
A lot
and
of the sites,
but
they'll look like they're official from
it,
the government,
exactly, and
and it says clearly they're not in very small print.
yeah, that's unfortunate that they do that. But gosh, Tracy,
I
just
know
like that, we're done. I know.
we're going into fall, Tigo. It's supposed to be like I think yesterday was record high temperatures and it's going to stay hot, but at night we're starting to get that nice coolness. It's like that perfect time of the year. The growers markets are all like lush with beautiful vegetables
It
and
can't be fall yet. It's
I
still
love it.
August. We
I'm
can't be
so
talking about
happy.
fall yet. No, it's
Tomorrow will
August.
blink and it'll be the fair and then it'll be balloon fiesta
I
and
know.
then it'll be Thanksgiving and we'll be talking about winter selling season and
Did you hear what the Balloon Fiesta sponsor name is now, or the
no.
title sponsor?
Uh-uh.
In if I've got fake news here, I'm sorry, but ExxonMobil is going to be the title sponsor for the Balloon Fiesta. So that's what I heard.
Okay.
I read it somewhere, so it must be true. I
Yeah.
read it online.
Okay.
Hey,
All
thanks
right.
everybody again. Episode 501 in the books, and we appreciate everybody. If you ever have any
Hey,
questions or comments on our, comment on YouTube, call us. We are the Venturi Group of Real Broker. You can call us at 505-448-8888 and our website, Tracy.
welcome home, abq.com.
Take care.